Good afternoon. I'm Rachel Keegan, the Director of Enrollment at School Year Abroad. It's great to see everyone today. You're here for the SYA Italy admissions event. This is one of 3 webinars we're doing this week. We've got one for Spain tomorrow and one for France on Thursday, and we will have Italy now. So thank you all for making the time to get here. I wanted to, this is great because I can see everyone's participating. We have a very informative, I think, and great program planned for you all today. You're going to hear from our resident director, Patrick Scanlon, and he will be having a conversation with one of our current students, Reagan, who is here from Mercersburg Academy, who is currently enrolled in SYA Italy, and Reagan's mother, Rachel Stone, who is currently in Pennsylvania. And they will be having a conversation around some really important topics and things that are going on in SYA Italy, everything from what life is like there to the academics and the curriculum, to, sort of your daily life and extracurriculars, and most importantly, learning the language of Italian and the culture. So before we launch into that program, though, we are going to show you a brief video to give you a flavor of life at SYA Italy. We'll have the program, and then we'll end our program with a question and answer session. And we will wrap everything up by within the hour, because it is right now 9 o'clock in Italy, and it is a school day tomorrow, and we really appreciate everyone over there taking the time to participate. So I'm going to ask Sarah in our team here to show the SYA video, and then I will have Mr. Scanlon start his conversation with Reagan and Reagan's mom.
The walk to school is actually really cool. If you take the time to really engage in what's happening around you, to look around and see how beautiful of a place you are. Sometimes there are days where I'm just looking around and taking in what now is my home.
Everybody says it's life-changing. Everybody says that it's the experience of a lifetime, and I can't think of any other words. It's not just schoolwork. It's actual practical experience that you can't really get anywhere else.
Having to figure out my own environment, the confidence that I have built from that is the biggest thing I'll take away from SYA Italy. Each second that I got here, I knew I'd made the right choice. There's no way to describe it.
Studying ancient history or archaeology or Latin or Greek gives you lots of opportunities for the hands-on. And Italy, in this sense, with its 3,000 years of civilizations, can give to a young mind an experience that is almost impossible to describe in words.
I love the challenge. Being able to come back and say, oh my gosh, I spoke Italian all day, I made my way all the way to Rome. It's liberating to be able to have that kind of independence that most high school students don't get the chance to experience. I've realized that the world is a lot smaller and a lot more connected than I've ever imagined.
My host family, they are the cutest people I have ever met. I can leave Italy saying, I'm part Italian now, and I'm part of their family, and they love me, and I love them. And the relationships that I've created with them, that's something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life.
I know it can be sort of scary and thinking, oh, 9 months in a foreign country. it flies by so fast, and it's so fun, and it's an experience that I feel so fortunate to have been involved in. And it's not something that a lot of people get to do, so if you have the opportunity, please do it.
Just by applying, you're saying, hey, I want something different, I want something new. And if it's something that you want to do it.
Thank you, Sarah. Mr. Scanlon?
Yeah, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. I will begin by telling you that our philosophy is to create an experience here that allows basically a college preparatory curriculum in a brand new and very stimulating environment. We have learned very well how to strike that balance, and we have a place-based and experiential approach so that if you're at a certain school in the United States, we're not trying to replicate that here. To give you an idea that the weekly schedule is a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday classroom sequence predominantly. And in the middle of the week, we break for what's called field work, so that the field work courses, mostly electives, contribute to the preparation of that Wednesday. That is done largely independently. A great deal of it is done with some direction, but with student input and student flavors to it. And alongside that, we have an English and a math curriculum that are keep students in sequence with the curriculums of their sending schools. But I think with that in mind, I would like to introduce our current student, Reagan, to talk about the weekly schedule. And I would ask Reagan, puoi parlare un attimo riguardo i mercoledì, come si prepara, come si riflette, eccetera, e come funziona nel lavoro settimanale per te?
Okay, so Mr. Scanlon asked, how do normal Wednesdays function? Wednesdays are our field work days. So every Wednesday is different. We will sometimes stay in Viterbo, but a lot of times we'll go to different places. And we'll have different sort of objectives for each day and different assignments for different classes. A lot of it is mainly for our electives that we take, which is either local and global perspectives, agroecology, ancient art history, or Latin. So we'll get certain assignments for each class and basically just get sent off with some instructions. We'll have some check-ins throughout the day, but for the most part, we're pretty much on our own. Recently, as soon as we were able to go to Rome by ourselves, we've been having field works mainly at Rome. We've gone to Rome for like the past 5 or so field works. Sometimes we'll have a specific thing that we'll have to do or see, such as like the Colosseum and the Roman Forum. Those were one day. But a lot of times we are just kind of free, and we'll have to figure out how to sort of fit in our assignments throughout the day, but also explore on our own time. Some of my favorite field works have been, actually, I've had a lot of fun in Rome, but some of my favorite field works have been to the places that are kind of unique in that I wouldn't have really known of otherwise, such as Tarquinia, which is in the province of Viterbo. We took a bus, and there's a lot of Etruscan sarcophagi there. So we got to see sort of like local historical ruins, which was really interesting to me. But also, even when we're on school trips, we'll do certain types of field work there as well. One of my recent favorites was when we went to Bologna on our school trip for a week. We went to Ravenna for one day and looked at the Byzantine mosaics. So it's just a really interesting way to sort of like incorporate your projects into your surroundings. Yeah.
E Reagan, hai degli amici che hanno pensato in modo diverso di questo fieldwork, che hanno avuto delle altre preferenze, e poi parlare anche un po' di esclusione a sorpresa, oppure anche delle gite intorno a Viterbo.
Yeah, he asked if I have any friends that have different sort of thoughts on fieldworks, and also some of the different fieldworks that we do. Some of the fieldworks that we did at the beginning of the year were more surprise based, and will get put into like specific groups, which is interesting sometimes to have to work with other people that you're not used to, but it's also part of the challenge. We will sometimes have certain parts of the province of Viterbo or somewhere that we're assigned to go to specifically, and having to work with the other people to get there and use transportation and sort of go through trial and error with them is a nice challenge as well.
E ultimo, se puoi parlare delle classi tipo normali, tra virgolette, in matematica, italiano, experiential Italian e inglese, come loro, queste classi ti aiutano ad essere pronto per il tuo anno prossimo.
Okay. He asked me to talk a little bit about our core classes that we take, which are Italian, experiential Italian, math, and English. So everyone will take these 4 classes, and then they'll also take some electives, which I had mentioned before. But these core classes, our English class is very discussion based, which is nice, but also the curriculum for our English class is geared towards some of the main themes of the mission of SYA, such as travel, and finding yourself, which I find really nice to be reading things while I'm here and being able to relate to them. English or Italian is very fast paced, very nice, but it's really interesting to use immediately what you're learning in class and apply it like within your host family at dinner that night. I've just found it really easy to kind of push forward pretty fast. Experiential Italian is actually one of my favorite classes because it's very interesting. It always keeps me on my toes. It's very different. This is just kind of like a supplementary Italian class, but it's a lot more culture based. We've learned about gestures. We've learned about right now we're working on accents and dialects. We've learned in the beginning of the year like transportation and how to use it. It's very much like a functional class, but I've learned some of like the most helpful skills in language in that class. And it's usually pretty light and kind of fun because we're picking things that we're interested in to learn about. And as for math, math is primarily self-taught, but there's online lessons and also written lessons. And we have a math teacher who is always there to answer your questions. And it's kind of interesting to navigate like a bit by yourself, and work through it with your friends, but it also kind of goes with the general theme of SYA and finding independence. Yeah. But I feel like the classes are really preparing me to come back.
Benissimo. So I often tell families that this is also an experience for parents. I'd like to ask Reagan's mom, how are you living Reagan's academic experience? How is it coming to you? How do you feel about it, etc.?
I think it's really it's well because you guys are really wonderful at the way you communicate. Everything is right there. You have a portal that we're able to access at any time to see what classes are in, what the grades are. I haven't had to have any correspondence or anything with any of the instructors. Everything just seems to be going pretty well, at least on my end and in our situation. And then Reagan communicates with me pretty often, almost daily, about what's going on, what's new, what they did in school today, and so forth and so on.
Thank you. then I would like to turn to the parts of our program that are integrated with the curriculum, which is life outside of school. Reagan, se puoi parlare delle opportunità che hai riguardo le attività extrascolastiche per primo e poi dopo ti chiedo della famiglia, eccetera. Cominciamo con le attività extrascolastiche che tu fai e che anche degli amici fanno.
Okay, so there's a lot of extracurricular activities that are offered for everyone, depending on when you're free and whatnot, and what you're interested in. We have an amazing extracurricular coordinator. His name is Dave. He's super cool, super nice, and very interested in getting you doing what you love normally. So if you have something that you're really passionate about, I would definitely make sure to ask him and see if you can do it here, because for the most part, it's probably something that you can still carry on doing. Here, there's also a lot of like extracurricular activities that people wouldn't normally do or are very place-based as well. There's different Italian cooking classes. There's I know my friends have taken those and really enjoyed them. There's a hiking group that I'm part of that we hike the Via Francigena, which is a trail that goes from Canterbury, England, all the way down through Italy. And so I've hiked parts of that with a hiking group. There's this evening I had an acting class that I take with my friends that we're slowly transitioning into Italian. And we'll put on a show at the end of the year, and that's been one of my favorite things here. And that was just something new that I've tried. Among that, I'm also part of a law program where there's an international lawyer who gives us sort of lessons monthly, and we work through cases hands-on that he's done before, and he's able to kind of explain to us law and what that means. But there's also a lot of other extracurriculars. There's an archaeology group. There's several different tutoring opportunities. I tutor every Friday to a local Italian school for English class. And you can get associated with any type of gym. There's a lot of gyms in Viterbo if you want to keep doing sports. And also various sports teams. There's a soccer group, I know. So there's a lot that you can do, a lot that you can carry on doing. But I'd also suggest trying something new, even if it's something completely out of your comfort zone that you wouldn't normally do. Because I've had the most fun just like saying yes and going along with it.
Bravo, grazie. E parla un attimo, magari più di un attimo, riguardo la tua situazione familiare e come vivi in casa, come l'apprendimento della lingua italiana va lì in casa, tutto quello che vuoi condividere riguardo questa esperienza tua.
Okay, so Mr. Scanlon asked me to talk a little bit about my host family and the experience with my host family, and experience using Italian in the household. I live with a host family. I have I have a host mom, no host dad, and two older host brothers who are adults who live at the house with me. And my house is pretty close to the center of Viterbo. Some houses are a bit farther away. And you'll figure out how to work that transportation. I have friends who take the bus in every morning and just have to keep up with the bus schedule. I'm able to walk into town, but also my host mom is always available to drive me places and is very enthusiastic about that. But my host family, I love my host family. They're super loving. They're willing to do anything for me at the drop of a hat. Like they care for me and they treat me like one of their own 100%. My host brother, my younger host brother speaks a little bit of English, but which was able to help for like the first 2 or so weeks. But as soon as my Italian started kind of passing the point where he knew in English, it became like unhelpful. But I was able to progress a lot further with a family that primarily speaks only Italian. And I also had told them at the beginning of the year that I wanted to try to speak only an Italian in the house, and we've just kind of went forward with that. So at the beginning of the year, obviously, I couldn't have very in-depth conversations with my host family. It was a bit hard with the language barrier, but I still tried, and we had small talk, and eventually now we're able to have fuller, longer conversations. And I really do feel like I've integrated into part of their family. They've been talking about coming to visit me someday in America. But it's been a really lovely experience all in all. I have two host dogs, who are very cute. But yeah, that's it.
So it's such an integral part of our program. Rachel, what's it like from your vantage point, knowing that Reagan is in this host family situation? How have you participated in that, looked at it? What's your perspective there?
It has been amazing. The host mom is incredible. She and I communicate via Facebook Messenger, and whatever works, it worked for her. And at first, I was trying to be kind of like, I'd throw it through Google Translate because I speak no Italian, and then try to like accommodate her, and then she'd still send everything back to me in Italian. I was like, I think that she's kind of figuring it out too, so now I just send it in English and she must do the same thing. But we communicate back and forth really easily, and she is so incredibly kind and sweet and loving, and it just radiates from her. And on Christmas we did a video chat with my family, and then Reagan and the host mom and the brothers and stuff. And it was just really sweet and exciting to be able to share a little bit of our families together, even for just like 5 minutes. She communicates. Reagan was sick at one point, and the host mom was with me immediately, letting me know what was going on, and that everything, that she had it under control. And other than that, it's been perfect. Great communication. She's super helpful, and also is so encouraging of Reagan. And it's really been positive.
I don't know that Reagan knows this story, but in the COVID shortened year in 1920, our students had to go home in March. Like most schools, there was a sort of an end date. But one of the students who went home, who lived in Mountain Standard Time, which was 8 hours different, shared meals by Zoom for about 3 months until the end of the year, where the Italian family was eating at the same time and broadcasting their dinner about the time that the family in Mountain Standard Time was having a brunch on Sundays. And that became a sort of weekly tradition that they've continued monthly to this day. Some of these families remain in contact with our students for a long, long time. One current host family is visiting a student they had in 2006, and going through they're in northern Montana for that very cold. they were at minus 35 Fahrenheit last week to celebrate the birth of their host grandchild. So some of these relationships go on for a long, long time. It gives us an immense amount of pride and satisfaction to know that that's happening. And I think that Reagan's laying the groundwork for all that to be happening too. Allora, Reagan, spiega un pochettino come vivere in un paese piccolo, però non piccolissimo, è un paese medievale, un paese ricintato dalle mura, e un labirinto di palazzi antichi. Come hai trovato questo all'inizio e come lo trovi adesso?
Okay, Mr. Scanlon asked me to explain a little bit about Viterbo, and my opinions on Viterbo, and just regarding some of the quirks that it has. Viterbo's a very culturally significant city in Italy, because for many different historical reasons, but the Pope was actually in Viterbo for a few years in, I believe, the 1400s, somewhere around there. So Viterbo is a well-known city in Italy. And it's not a large city, but it's also not the smallest city. For me, I think it's the perfect size. It's perfect. Anything that you need, you can find pretty easily on foot. It's walkable. It's very nice. Viterbo is actually walled in by medieval walls, which most medieval Italian cities are, and still are. So the walls just add like a cool, I don't know. I find it very neat. I live right outside of the walls, so walking to and from school, I just enter through the walls, and it's very nice, very cool. But it also contains everything in the center very nicely. So there's shops, pharmacies, tons of restaurants in the center. And the school is also in the center of the walls. And this makes things very easy. Um, but also there's different things inside of the walls. There's different ancient palaces, medieval palaces, yeah. Piazzas. For the first few weeks, I had so much fun just walking around and trying to get lost. And stumbling upon just like a really aesthetically pleasing road, or stumbling across like a huge church, because a lot of the churches are open and you can walk in and see like beautiful frescoes that are crazy old. So I had a lot of fun exploring in the first few weeks, and I still have fun like exploring and walking around, and finding different quirks that Viterbo has, because it has a lot of quirks.
And Rachel, you visited recently. How did you find this little hometown of ours?
I did not visit. Reagan's dad did.
My
Uh,
My
apologies.
dad,
That's okay. I have 67 days until I'm there.
But no one's counting.
But I'm not counting at all. But so I can't answer that. But from what he has told me, it was really just wonderful. He had a really amazing experience, and Reagan can probably just vouch for all of that more than I can
yeah,
since you were there.
when my dad came, we spent one day, the first day in Viterbo, and then we went to Venice for 2 days. And then we spent another day in Viterbo, then went to Rome. And he told me afterwards that Viterbo was his favorite place that he went to, like along the whole journey. He loved it so much. He was like, it's the perfect size. It's very like tranquil. It's very medieval, and he's really into history like me. But he texted me a few days ago and was like, I miss Viterbo. Like Viterbo was so much fun.
He
E
did that
parlo
to
un
me.
attimo.
He did that to me too. He said it's so amazing. He's like, I already miss it.
67 days. Regan, se puoi parlare un pochettino del tuo tempo libero, le cose non extrascolastiche, quando non stai in famiglia, quando non sei a scuola, come passi il tempo?
Yeah, he asked me how do I normally spend my free time when I'm not at school or at extracurricular activities. So during the weekdays, it depends. There's this really nice cafe near the school that has a theater in it, which is actually where I do my acting classes. And on the second floor, there's a really nice study area that a lot of the students go to, as well as Italian students around. So I tend to go there after school, gravitate there, to do work, but mainly just talk with friends and have a cappuccino, or a snack. And so I tend to do that after classes during the school week. Or I'll walk around, run errands with friends, if we need to pick up something. Uh, but that's pretty much during school week. There's not an excess of homework in the way that our schedules are. It's really easy to kind of fit in getting work done at school. But time management is a little hump that you'll have to kind of work through within the first few months. I'm still figuring things out. Um, as for the weekends, we have extended curfews and can stay out a lot later. So Friday nights, I'll usually eat dinner out with friends, and just walk around. Especially, it's nice when it's warmer outside, but it's not too cold here in Viterbo. Saturdays are my favorite. I usually do day travel with my friends. You can do this Saturday or Sunday. And we've pretty much gone to Rome for every day travel, but day travel, once it gets opened up, you can go anywhere that you can go in a day and back and make it back by curfew. Rome is perfect for that. It's about a 90-minute to 2-hour train ride. And you can buy this little ticket that's 12 euros that gets you there and back, and also any public transport in Rome for the day, which is great. We've had so much fun traveling on Saturdays. And some of my best days here have been like Saturdays with friends where we are completely free to do what we want in wherever. We've gone to museums, we've gone to just walking around without an agenda, because it's nice knowing that you can go back and you don't feel like you have to do everything in one day. Um, and then
No,
Sundays, I usually relax a little bit because traveling and school. But I'll get some work done or have lunch out with friends, or even recently, we've started like inviting friends over to the house and having lunches with my host family, or having lunches at another friend's house with their host families. And that's been nice.
and since you and I'll ask this in English, you have had some of these spontaneous conversations about what you're going to miss when you eventually do go home. Can you talk about that? Because those are um, really informative and I think fascinating little conversations we have.
What I'm gonna miss, I'm going to miss the biggest thing, the people that I meet here for sure. Even though it's possible to meet up back home, those are probably number one. I've made a really, really great group of friends here. Um, and I think being in Italy and facing like the same challenges at the same time have really brought us a lot closer than they would normally. But friends would be definitely number one. Two would be just like the ability to travel to such significant places. Um, because I've been to Rome, I've been to Florence, I've been to Venice, and these are just such big places. And just the ability to take a train and go. I wish America had the train system that Italy and the rest of Europe has, but we'll get there maybe. Um, yeah, definitely friends, the ability to travel and see like historical ruins, the museums. I'm a big history nerd, so I've been really enjoying the museums. It's like the Mecca. It's fantastic. Um, yeah, I'd say those are the big things.
But when we began this conversation, I think in November, it started with you're saying in class,
Oh
how am
yeah,
I how am I going to live without?
without Italian olive oil. The olive oil here is so good. I never even liked olive oil that much. Like back home, it was always just an ingredient. But here, like we made fresh olive oil in agroecology class. We collected the olives, we brought it to the like processing plant and saw how everything was made. And my host mom just has like a spout in her kitchen of like fresh olive oil. And like I'm telling you, like the 2-day old fresh olive oil that's like bright green, you'll never be able to like eat American olive oil after tasting it.
Because the truth is, it's fake.
Yeah.
Um, People pay less for olive oil in the United States than we pay here, which tells you something about the market. Um, Rachel, Keegan, did you want to take in maybe manage some questions?
Yeah, that's great. And thank you, Reagan and Rachel and Mr. Scanlon for providing a really excellent and comprehensive overview of all the different elements of the SYA Italy experience. One thing I did want to ask Rachel, if she could just share with the group before we jump into some of the questions, of what it was like as a parent to go through the application process, and how Reagan sort of came to discover SYA and your journey with Reagan through the application process, and how did you experience that?
Reagan's always wanted to travel abroad since probably like first grade. So when the opportunities came available through Mercersburg Academy, Reagan just basically took the lead on all of that. And of course, the school's really, really helpful with facilitating the application process. I really just felt like kind of a bystander because Reagan just really an independent and self-driven person. But once the application was processed and the acceptance was given, I mean, all of the communication was right away. Kenzie is amazing and was able to answer all of my questions because I had several at different times. I created, I'm kind of an old school person who likes to have checklists that I do with, a pen and paper and squares and folders and things like that. And I just created a folder with everything that came and just check one box off at a time. And because it is a process. If you haven't already ever had to do international visas or getting all of the information and all of the different things, the special birth certificates and all of the other stuff, but you just do it one step at a time, one checkbox at a time. And it gets there if you have, it can get a little dicey if you have a split home, as far as making sure that you have letters that are notarized and signed by both parents and things to that effect. And I know some people, ours is pretty easy because we live in the same town, but if there's families that have families that live in two different towns or areas or states, just something that you'll want to think ahead about to make sure that you have the ability to get those things signed or notarized. Other than that, it was really, really quite seamless. I think the hardest part and most stressful part was going to get the visa done, just because you're not sure. I just brought the folder
Right.
of
That's
everything I
great.
acquired. I just
Right.
brought it all, all the
Yep.
copies, and we still had to walk a block to make a photocopy of something that they needed, that they won't do the photocopy inside the visa office, but it's okay. But
Yeah.
and that's, you just keep this folder of everything together so that way when you go, you have everything. But once the visa was done, everything else was just smooth sailing from that point on, because it was just a matter of acquiring all of the components to get the visa. And then once the visa was done, everything else was smooth sailing, and all the
Yeah.
communication. And, we traveled to Boston for the flight to leave. So we drove several hours, from where I'm at. So that way Reagan had the opportunity to fly with everybody together whenever they embarked. So,
Yeah. At the end of
and that
the
was
day.
worth it. It was great.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And thanks for sharing that. I know it's a family journey. It is the student often who is the person who comes home and says, I'm super excited to explore this opportunity, and come as a surprise to many parents, and they have a lot to learn. And that's partly why we do these kinds of events, for parents to get to learn more about it. But it's wonderful to hear how it is a journey that you do together. It isn't just your child's journey, honestly. And it starts with the application process. So thank you, Rachel, for sharing that. So we've got a couple of questions I wanted to go through, and my folks on my team have been great about answering some of them. Most of them, honestly, but I'm still just going to touch on some of them just so everyone can hear. One of the questions was about semester versus year-long students, and I just wanted to share a majority of our students do attend for the year. We are school year abroad, but we have started enrolling semester students for the last 3 years. And that was really out of sheer demand. So many people were interested in attending for the semester. So we typically have about one section in the fall and one section in the spring. You may not come for the fall in hopes of possibly staying for the spring. You do need to decide if you're going to be a semester student, and you need to pick the semester that you're applying for. You don't have the option to extend. Those students in the fall, will join the year-long program students, and they leave at the holidays. And then we just received our second semester students this past weekend, and they will join the year-long students and be with this program until May. And we're happy to, in the admissions office, talk to you a little bit more about that. But that's basically how the semester versus year-long program works. One of the other questions is, do you need to know Italian before you go? And the answer is no. The classes Most of our students do come in as what we call beginners, and they will take Italian, and their other classes are taught in English, but Italian, as the year goes on and the students learn Italian, you'll hear more and more Italian in their elective classes, and certainly in their Italian and experiential Italian classes. Math and English remain in English. I don't know if you want to share anything more on that, Mr. Scanlon.
You've covered it very well. And Reagan, did you basically come as a pure beginner, or did you do a little studying before you got here?
I did some Duolingo like over the summer. I think like after I had gotten accepted, I started doing some Duolingo, but I wasn't very on top of it. But regardless, when I got here, I was pretty shocked. I studied Chinese at my homeschool, so I didn't have any idea how like romantic languages worked. I was so confused at the beginning. It's just two very different languages, but I think it's depending on how much you study over the summer, it's definitely going to help you a little bit, but it's always going to be a shock when you're actually in the environment and everyone's speaking. But eventually you'll get into it. You have to be patient with yourself, and you have to be okay with making mistakes, because that's the only way that you can actually progress. But I didn't know pretty much any Italian when I got here.
There's a question here directly for you. What is something you wish you knew or did before you came?
Something I knew, I think in general, it's important to come at things with an open mind. I don't think you should try to pigeonhole yourself into any sort of way of thinking. And I think it's important to keep an open mind throughout the entire process, whether that's like something you observe that's different in your culture or with your host family or with the language. I think forming any solid opinions right away can be harmful. And I've also seen how it's made people negative in the longer run. So I think it's important to keep an open mind. That's probably the biggest thing I think it's important to know. And also just know that it's okay to make mistakes. They happen all the time. I can't count like how many trains I've missed, how many buses I've missed, how many like just incorrect sentences I've said, and where my host family looks at me like I'm an alien and don't know what I'm saying. But it happens, and at the end of the day, everything works out. You laugh it off, and you remember what word that you said wrong the next time, or you remember that the train comes actually 10 minutes earlier, and you figure things out. But I think just keep an open mind and be content with making mistakes.
That's great. Thank you, Reagan. It's wonderful. Oh, there's a question here about getting to know local Italian students. I don't know, Reagan and or Mr. Scanlon, if you can share a little bit about the opportunities that might present themselves either through extracurricular opportunities or the school visiting program or those kinds of things.
I'll offer it generally, and then I'll ask how Reagan's been able to do so. Lots of inroads. One is through the families themselves. Families, either other host families who have siblings, families, and their extended families are opportunities. We offer 2 separate weeks in an Italian school where we cease classes, what we're doing, and students follow an Italian school schedule for 1 week. Every student essentially has their own class in an Italian school. So it's the one part that we could consider full immersion for the day, because while we're trying to maintain our college preparatory curriculum, we can't really consider ourselves full immersion. We're just always negotiating that balance. But those 2 weeks allow you to make friends. And I'm finding more and more that you make friends through your SYA friends who made friends. Weekend encounters, anybody who wants to make Italian friends can make Italian friends. The limiting factor there is the student, because they are abundant. We also have a program that we run once a week called International Gemellaggio, an international twinning, where we select, based on some selected criteria, students that want to meet Italian students, and they come into school and discuss topics such as the educational system, music, um, parenting, popular culture, all kinds of things. In the first semester, that's done in English with Italian students who want to improve their English. And second semester, as our students have made more inroads with their language, the second semester is conducted entirely in Italian. Reagan, what am I missing, and how has that worked for you or your friends?
Yeah, I think the extracurriculars, when I tutor at the Italian school, obviously there's a whole class of people. I go back to the same class every week, so I've gotten to know them pretty well. As well as the week in the Italian school was a really interesting experience. It taught me, this was back in October, back when I was still very much so learning, and at the beginning of my learning the language, but it taught me that I knew a lot more Italian than I thought I did. And also made me less worried about meeting and making Italian friends. Because at the end of the day, they're not as scary as you make them out to be. They're just like other kids, just like you. And yeah, I think if you want to make Italian friends, you can surely make Italian friends. There's opportunities and they're plentifully available. And for the most part, they're all really nice. So.
Thank you, Reagan. One of the other questions that's come up is about sort of the host family process, matching process. And it's definitely an art and a science, largely an art. We can sort of share with you that after a student decides to enroll with us, there are many forms that are sent out. There's also an extensive visa application process, which Reagan's mom shared with us a little bit. But the host family questionnaire comes out. Parents fill out a form, students fill out a form, and we also refer to their application. And that form has a lot of questions, and we ask things like, whether there's eating allergies, are they allergic to pets, or do they play the piano and would like to have a piano in the home, things like that. And then also sort of what your sort of wishes and hopes and desires are. And those forms are reviewed by our host family coordinator, who is a longtime SYA employee and very familiar with many of these families and from the area, and works very closely with Mr. Scanlon to make some wonderful matches. And that is communicated to you over the summer, and you'll have an opportunity to connect with that host family via a Zoom or a WhatsApp in advance of departing, so that you have a chance to sort of share some stories and get to know each other a little bit before you arrive. And I often share with folks, it's rarely sort of the reason why people choose to go in SYA, or I want to live with a host family. But yet, if you ask students on their return what their top 2 favorite things about the experience was, 99 times out of 100, one of those top 2 was their relationship with their host family. It is definitely one of the most memorable, special pieces of the SYA experience that stays with you for many, many years. We've covered a lot of questions. It's 10 minutes of 9. And I do want to say that I know our team has pointed you in a lot of different directions in terms of extracurriculars that you're involved in, that you've questions about, very specific application things. There's also been a few things about the summer program, which we do have a summer program for 5 weeks. And we're directing you to Jeanette Kirby, who is our summer admissions coordinator, and she oversees that application process. This event is largely focused on our semester and year-long program, sort of the academic year program. But we're happy to, there's information on the website, and we are accepting applications for that 5-week summer program as well. I do want to be, like I said, cognizant of the time. I want to give Reagan and Reagan's mom and Mr. Scanlon just a minute if they have any final words that they would like to share, and then I'll just wrap it up with just some minor application timeline and procedures and thank them. So Reagan, Mr. Scanlon, or Rachel, anything you want to share, closing remarks?
For me, I'll just say thanks to both of them. I really appreciate taking the time. I know Reagan needs to get to school tomorrow morning because we have field work where they have organized an outing for our brand new incoming spring semester students. Thank you, Rachel, for coming. I think we've covered a great deal, and I see some other links about other people that folks on the call can connect to. That's it for me, Rachel. Reagan or Rachel, I'll let you say what you need.
I just have to say it's this whole process from start to finish, well, start to today has been seamless. It's been positive. I have watched my child grow into an entirely different and better version of themselves than what they were before they left. Confident and knowledgeable and patient, and it's been really something spectacular. And I can't wait to go there and visit and meet the folks that are on site, and just see everything that I've been watching vicariously from a distance. So, but I encourage anybody to take advantage of the opportunity if it's presented. I don't think you'll be sorry at all. It's been incredible.
Thank you, Rachel. 67 days.
67 days and
Yep.
counting.
Reagan?
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that. I think if you're considering it, you should definitely at least apply, because the worst that happens is that you get in and you decide maybe later that you don't want to do it, but you should definitely apply. And I think you should definitely do it. It's something that I'll never forget. And even in some of the more challenging moments, I have like already seen how it's made me grow. And I don't think I'll be able to truly realize how much this experience will mean to me until I'm back home for a little bit. But in the moment, it's something that's so amazing. And I haven't regretted my choice since being here, one bit. And also, I tend to post a lot of pictures of my experience and stuff, so I can leave my Instagram in the chat if you want to follow and see some of my pictures. But I also write stories for, there's different opportunities to be like a campus storyteller or videographer. So those are on the SYA chat as well, or a website if you want to check those out. But
Your
I'd
stories
say
are wonderful, Reagan. Thank you for sharing them with us. They're really terrific. Thanks. So we're coming to the end here. It's late over there in Viterbo and everyone needs to get to bed, but I do just want to thank all of you for participating, particularly Mr. Scanlon and Rachel Stone and Reagan. Thank you, but also for all of you for making time this afternoon to come to this event. It's an exciting time. We are starting to look at some applications and they're starting to come in. Our deadline is to remind everyone is February 9th. So we've received many, but we're getting every weekend, we see more and more coming in. So if you have questions, my team is around and available and happy to answer any questions that you have. Decisions will be going out in early March. And for those students who are offered a place, we will have other webinars and other opportunities to find out more information. But in the meantime, we look forward to reading all of your applications. And please reach out to us with any questions. And thank you, Mr. Scanlon, Rachel Stone, and Reagan Hoop so much.
Piacere tutto mio. Thanks, everybody.